more comments. Or better than one. I'm afraid.
Do you want some lighting so that you can see what you're holding up? Or?
Yeah, just a bit. And then, and also,
Yeah, that's fine. Is that good enough for you?
yeah, absolutely.
Well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Nice to see you. I'll just get that out of the way. The usual follow that next. I'm ready for that. Nice to see you all. Right, we've got a great evening ahead of us this evening. Linda's obviously going to talk to us about dinosaurs. No pressure, Linda. All right, but it will be good. I know it will be good. Now, parish notices for you. Our next meeting is the AGM, which is going to take place on the 16th of March. I'm right on that date, aren't I?
Yeah.
So we'll do a quick AGM. Alan, will you be emailing out some documentation prior to that?
Probably, I hope so, yes.
And obviously a statement of accounts and things like that, so you can all have a look through and see why we've all been off on holiday to the Caribbean. So have a look through that. And then we'll have a quick AGM at the next meeting, and then Graham Gardner's going to talk to us. Graham's disappeared. There he is, right from on a short history, a brief history of cable TV, which I've just been talking to him about, and that's going to be absolutely brilliant as well. I was involved in cable TV back in my early days of weather forecasting, and I used to see it from the other end, so I was one of the lovies who kind of used it to do weather forecasts and appeared on the screen using cable TV. Graham was one of the guys who actually got us on air, and I was just saying to him how they did it is just mind-blowing. So it's one of those things that is well worth coming to see. And also I was just saying to Graham as well, we've gone back in time because what they're doing around the village at the moment with fibre is cable TV. We just don't call it cable TV. So this is your chance really to hear it from the horse's mouth as it was going on. Technology has come back, gone full circle. So that's going to be in March. Is there anything else, Alan, in the parish notice? I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
If anybody's interested in the walk in the summertime, led by Paul Wilkinson, we don't know quite where it will be at the moment. It may involve driving somewhere because we may not do a local walk. Distance, I don't think will be excessive, and the pace won't be that big because we're talking about what we're seeing as we walk along.
And it's on the 20th of July. Let me just double check. Hold on, I'll take it. So that's going to be on the 20th, Thursday the 20th of July, the evening. But as Alan says, it's not going to be a huge distance that you walk or that we travel. But Paul will let us know. If you've not seen Paul talk, he talks regularly at Society. If you've not seen Paul talk, you've missed a treat. Okay, he's really, really good. So if you want to go, put your name down on the list. And then obviously as soon as we've got more details of where it's going to be, then we will let you know.
I'm sorry, I actually didn't hear what you said at the beginning of that meeting.
Okay, it's Paul Wilkinson,
Yeah.
and he's going to do a walk, so we're going to join him for a walk. It will be somewhere local-ish, but not very local to the village. And if you want to go, it's on Thursday the 20th of July. If you put your name down, it just gives us an idea of numbers, and we'll know more details of exactly where it's going to be when Paul tells us. But he's really good.
Who is Paul Wilkinson?
So Paul is he's in the conservation of the Canal and Rivers Trust.
Ecological officer.
He's the ecological officer as well, yeah. But he's very good. So if you want to go along, put your name down. It'll be well worthwhile. But that would, you're not tied to anything. It would just give us an idea for numbers. And I think that's it. Yeah, just about. Yeah. And of course we've got a full programme now out there for the rest of the year. The only one we've got a doubt over is in May. No, I think it's May, isn't it, that we've got a doubt over?
May.
So you may have to listen to me for an evening on that one.
Yes.
All right. So for you. So
we're not sure about that.
Yeah. So it's 25th of May. So we're just waiting for confirmation. But it may be that you have to listen to me talk about weather for an evening. Right. So without further ado, I am going to hand you over to Linda. Very prescient talk actually, because dinosaurs were in the news earlier on.
They were.
And no doubt are you going to tell us more about that?
Well, a little bit.
Oh, right, okay.
Because I just found out today as well.
Right, okay, so I'll hand you over to Linda.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to start a little bit different to we normally do, and I've got some films which hopefully you'll be able to hear, but it's mainly visual, so I can talk over Sir David Attenborough. But anyway, okay. In the past, when I've done this sort of talk, I've started off, because I was a teacher for a long time, start off with my props. They're always fascinated, I always have these sort of props. And I've got these three, and I usually say, you know, what are the differences or similarities? And I say, hang on, before you all shout at me, that's a really bad question, isn't it, really? Because you could come up with all sorts of daft things. But basically, these three are extinct. Okay, we all know that. But why are they extinct? Let's start with the dodo. Okay, what's caused the extinction of the dodo?
Eating them. We did, shooting them.
That's right, yep. Humans totally responsible, and we know the dodo is extinct, there aren't any more, and we know what it looks like. We've got actual dodos, although they're stuffed, but we've got them. We've got first-hand evidence. People have written down what they look like, what they ate, what they tasted like, and all sorts of things, how to cook them. And of course, and it was because of humans that dodos are extinct. Okay, but we've got loads and loads of evidence. We know what they look like, we know what they wear, we know all about them, we know a lot. Okay, first hand. Next one I draw attention to is the mammoth. Okay, and yeah, I know, no, his name is not Manny, which is the usual thing I have to say. Some people, Ice Age from film.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Mammoths are extinct, and again, why?
Probably us again.
Possibly, that we have been, you know, have been blamed a little bit. It's also perhaps climate as well. And we know humans were involved, and we've got really good evidence for the mammoth, because basically humans have left behind paintings on the walls in caves. They've also left behind bits of mammoth in the caves, so we know humans interacted with them. Again, we've got loads of quite first-hand evidence. We've also got some fantastic preserved specimens. They've been found in ice. So we've got their fur, we've got their last meals, we've got their soft tissues. We know a lot about them. Huge amount, again, of information. So we can't go wrong there. We know what they look like. We know almost how they behaved. We've got evidence. And they also tell us a lot about humans as well. Because, you know, mammoths, puny human, to take down a mammoth, they needed to cooperate. So that means humans must have hunted in a group. That means there must have been communication, perhaps language started then, and so on. So we know a lot about mammoths, and we've got quite good evidence of that. Did it look like that? Certainly wasn't fair, was it, like that? Dinosaurs. What do we know about these? Well, we've got the bones. And for a long time, we've just got the bones. That's it. And a few bones. Dinosaurs. They've been around for a very long time. I have to refer, I never remember numbers. We believe they evolved about 252 to 201 million years ago. I see the precision there. Really good. That's the early Triassic. They think early Triassic or even late Triassic. So they've been around a very, very long time. Until along came an asteroid about 55 million years ago, or was it 65? I told you I'm never even useless at remembering numbers, 65 million years ago. And that's it, they've gone. No first-hand evidence, we've just got bones. Okay, and that's really what I want to concentrate on. A little bit about past, about how we found out about them, and then some new stuff. Well, it was new to me. You can thank these books for this talk. I love dinosaurs, I've always been fascinated. And I came across a guy called Michael Benton, his books, and I bought them, and they're just wonderful. They're just full of new stuff, and that's where I've got a lot of this information from as well. So, dinosaurs. Now, Who wouldn't go to a Jurassic Park? Okay. I know how it always ends up with the dinosaurs, but who wouldn't go? I'd be saving up like anything. So, dinosaurs. Well, it goes back to quite a long way. Again, dates, I put it on there, didn't I? Robert Plot in 1677 is credited for finding about the first fossil bone. But he didn't know it was a dinosaur. Okay, there it is. In fact, he thought it was a big human bone, because if that just looks like the end of a human thigh bone. So, but it was big. They found it was big. So he thought big humans, giants, who knows? Yeah, okay. And in 1763, Robert Brooks gave it the Latin name of Scrotum humanum. Who wasn't thinking it? Anyway. Really, come on. But then eventually it has been identified as a dinosaur bone, and it was renamed. Why do I do this? Every talk I do, I end up with these big long names that I struggle with. So, Megalosaurus bucklandi, and that's one of the easy ones. William Buckland named it in 1824. So again, we're already moving forward. So dinosaurs. Okay. These are the Mantels, and they did a lot of natural history work. They just, could afford. They were rich people, lots of time on their hands going out there. And they actually found an iguanodon tooth. This was in the 1800s. So again, quite early, iguanodon tooth. It is, so they found that. They thought it was like a lizard tooth, an iguana. So don't, teeth, iguana, don. Iguanodon teeth. Okay, that's not what it looked like, but that's what they thought, lizard. Now, we've got to remember that when they find these bones, to a lot of us, they wouldn't even look like anything. They wouldn't look like bones in the ground at all. And they certainly wouldn't be nicely positioned. They could be a total mix-up like that one is. So, you've got to forgive them. So they would take apart that mess and start putting it together in the hope to try and make it look like something. And of course, what they base it on are living things that we know about, reptiles, mammals, and everything. And they linked it, and they thought big lizard, reptile, and they thought they found that little horny bit, the hard bit, and they put it on his nose in London. And of course, just like all lizards, and really most animals today, they put the forelegs. Okay. And then they sort of thought, big lizard, must be quite big. Right, well, that's what they sort of look like. So they tried to fill it in a bit like that. This good-looking guy, we've come across him before, Richard Owen, 1854. He was the one that named them dinosaurs. He was really high up in science and biology at the time. He was contemporary of Darwin, although he did not agree with Darwin. He didn't think things went extinct, so anything we found as a fossil, he believed that somewhere in the world, because don't forget we hadn't explored much of the world by then, somewhere in the world, they'd find them, they'd be there. Didn't think extinction really happened. And evolution, he was still he wasn't linking to Darwin at all. Okay, but it was really important, and he named them dinosaurs, which means terrible lizard. Okay, but he started to think that perhaps more rhinoceros-like, sort of mammal-like than lizard-like. So he put these together, and these were made into models, and they were used in the Great Exhibition, okay, at the time. So everyone went to see these. And at the time, they still hadn't found complete ones. So look at that. It's just just a jumble, isn't it? Making heads and tails of some of these things has been really difficult. And getting it out the ground is not easy, okay? Not easy at all. Let's just have a look at the knowledge and all this, see if I've missed anything out, of course. So, getting it out the ground, not easy at the time. They just had to dig it out, and sometimes they sort of bashed it up as they were doing it. And putting them together, gradually as they got more and more, they started to look for more of the skeletons. They started to realise that they're not really like the first model that we saw. They're sort of much more like a bipedal animal, which really, we haven't got a huge number, kangaroos I suppose, we haven't got a huge number of really bipedal animals really living at the moment. Okay. Now Richard Owen still thought at the time, lizards, very slow, they probably lived a long time, they were very, very large as we saw, very slow, and they probably really were too stupid to adapt. They're lizards. Lizards aren't very clever. There aren't many hugely clever lizards at the time. But anyway, things would change. Okay, 1855, that's what I was looking for. The date was one of the first complete skeletons to be found. And this was a hadrosaur. And we're getting to the idea that they are bipedal. And it's found in America. And this actually led to loads of books and films. Okay? A lot of the time in the films they did use big lizards and they shoved frills on them, horns on them to make them look a bit different. Okay? See if this works. Now, before I go any further, I've seen most of these films, I love dinosaur films, but can I just say I saw repeats? I didn't see them at the time. Okay. I'd just like to make that very clear. But we all perhaps remember these plasticine models and them fighting and King Kong and all those sorts of things. So they'd go off to a land somewhere and they'd find dinosaurs there and interact with them. And then, of course, you've got the 1 years BC, which we lost yesterday, wasn't it? And these mainly the films. I don't know how they got them to do this. It's a bit cruel, isn't it? All slow, and half those people at the back don't look as though they're not even seeing it. Okay. So we've got an idea that they're slow, they're big, they're sort of not very clever. But with more and more complete fossils being found, we get the idea that they are different. So they have to start thinking that, well, if they're bipedal, perhaps they're not as slow as we first thought. Okay. We've got the railways in America to thank for a lot of our findings at the moment. So this is sort of 1865 to the 1900s. The Great Dinosaur Rush, it's called. As the railways were built across America, areas were sort of blown up to make way for the railways. And in blowing up, they found lots of different dinosaur fossils. Which meant, of course, they would go out and blow up more areas to get more dinosaur fossils because they quickly realised they could sell them to museums. People wanted them. They wanted to see them, the general public wanted to see them, and of course museums wanted them. So there'd be loads of people going out there, blowing up huge areas, digging them up, taking them away. So of course it wasn't really a good method of actually taking these out of the ground. But that's what happened. Now at the time, this is going to spark loads of different books. You've got Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, okay, The Lost World, Edgar Rice Burroughs, The Land That Time Forgot, Ice Age, okay, and then of course more recent Jurassic Park, which I'll come back to. So we started off with the slow lizards, few bones being found, and then as more and more things were found, we got more information. And they actually found some impressions of skin. This one, oh, this is not an easy one to say. Where is it? I'll tell you about this later when I put the name up, and then you'll see why it's hard to say. But they actually found soft tissue with this one. And you can see that it's got lots of bony plates, and you can see the skin better. So we can get more of an idea. Reptiles, perhaps, skin, just like a reptile, scaly on the outside. Charles Knight was very much the sort of, if you like, the main character who managed to bring dinosaurs to life. Using a lot of information from real animals that he knew, he started putting muscles on them. He started building them up, giving them skin, putting the bones in place. I thought I'd switch my phone off. It keeps making a noise. And so he started to bring them alive. So they weren't just bones, they were actual things. Okay? Right. Oh, incidentally, oh, there it is, I found the word. Boreoloptera. Okay? It actually took 14 days to get that one out of the ground. And then it took 6 years to get all the rock back in the lab, all the rock off the bones.
And was that in America again at that
Yeah.
stage?
Yeah. Okay. And you'll write that down somewhere. Okay. And then we've got other ideas. Bob Baker, who sort of took over as the role of bringing these animals to life, started to portray them differently. He started to show them as agile predators. Okay? And that's really where a lot of our ideas are starting to come from. So agile predators who are out there living, predating on the big herbivores. So we're getting more of an idea of behaviour. They must have done it because they had to catch the food, they had to eat it, they had to get things to eat. So we're okay about size of these creatures because we've got the bones and we can put them together, so there's no dispute really about the size of them. But what they're like, Deinonychus. Okay, I've been practicing that one today. Okay.
Well done.
That's one of the newer ones. That's not really thinking back to things like T-Rex and Stegosaurus and Allosaurus, all those sorts, which they were bringing back from America in huge numbers. So we're starting to look and see that there are other types. These are the velociraptors. You've seen them in Jurassic Park, the scared ones. Okay, and there's Bob Baker, 1960s. So we're now not that far away in history where they're coming up with these new ideas that they're agile predators. So it gives us more of an idea of what they actually look like. There he is, that's Iguanodon. Okay, you can see now the horn, instead of being, the poddy bit, instead of being on its nose, is actually part of its foot. But are we going too far? Are we going too far? How can we tell about the colour, for example? Is that too much? Can we be sure? So let's start asking some questions. Okay. How big's quite easy, because we just look at the size and measure them, we can see it. How fast and how strong? Okay, we'll have to have a look at here. Where are we? Right, what about the bite of a T-Rex? Well, a great white shark, we know, has a bite of 18,000 newtons. That's 1.8 tons. Again, I know that's a lot, but I'm not really sure. A human, for example, 0.12 tons. So, yeah. Now, if you look at the T-Rex and start putting the muscles on and start working out and start making models of them, which they have done, Okay, they actually found that it's possible that they had a bite of 3.5 to 5.7 tons. Now, everything in science, we need evidence. We can't just go on, sort of assumptions. So, that is a Triceratops hip bone. And that is not a natural hole. That is there because of a tooth from a T-Rex. So we've got evidence that T-Rex could bite through and cause that sort of damage. That's a 3 centimetre deep tooth wound from a T-Rex. They believe T-Rex because they matched it with the teeth they found. Okay, so definitely. So we're okay. So all these things, the speed, come on, move. Thank you. Okay. The speed, it's based on assumptions, and it's based on patterns of living things, things that we know about today. Now, for everything to be accepted, they've got to be corroborated by 2 independent approaches. And that's what's happening. 2 different ways to come to these conclusions. They know they can work out speeds and they can work out approximate strengths. So speeds, the T-Rex you've just seen. Horses are about 25 to 30 miles per hour. Sorry, 40 to 48 kilometres per hour. Okay, we have to do the modern one as well. T-Rex, a bit slower. Could we outrun a T-Rex? 10 to 20 miles per hour, they reckon. 25, that's 25 to 40 kilometres per hour. And in case you're wondering, Usain Bolt can do about 23 miles per hour, but only in that short little distance. So, honestly, we couldn't outrun a T-Rex, could we? Now, studies, we've seen how large some of these dinosaurs can get, the brontosauruses, the brachiosauruses, the really big animals. And it's actually debated whether they could actually walk on land. Because, let's see, elephants, 5 tons. These, we're looking at something like 50 tons. So, at the beginning, they actually thought that they mainly lived in swamps and water. Now, probably some of them did, but they've now found, again, using models, using computer technology, using all modern techniques, they've actually found that they can actually support themselves on land. They use the tails to balance and all sorts of things like that. So, they can do that. So they have changed their ideas in that way as well. Okay. Another way we can tell is by looking at footprints. And they've actually found some footprints. And today, that was what was in the news, wasn't it? They found a big dinosaur footprint. Was it off the Yorkshire coast?
Yes.
So they're found all over the place. There are lots of places where they're found. And you can tell a lot of information from a footprint. You can work out the weight of the animal. You can work out what it was doing, whether it was running, so you can work out speed. You can work out a little bit about behaviour, because often they're not on their own. I don't know whether you can see the one cutting across the tracks of that one. And then this one, there's lots all together, and they're different sizes, so you can assume that there'll be different ages together. So they went in herds. So again, looking at this sort of information, we can actually work out behaviour, which is something that's really difficult to do.
And again, where was this again? America?
These ones were America, yes. Okay. And this is, see if you can hear this one. It's only quiet to begin with, and then somebody comes on and speaks. This was an area, a riverbed that dried out because of some very dry weather in Texas. And they found these tracks.
This animal is a dinosaur called Acrocanthosaurus from 113 million years ago. It was a bipedal, 2-legged carnivore, small arms, very much like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but a little bit smaller. But it was still a pretty large creature. They were about 7 tons or so when they were big.
Go online and find loads of these. They're really quite good. There's lots. long time they're protected under the water. Now they're exposed to the elements, of course. How do you preserve something like that?
They seem like they're in stone.
You can't preserve it where it is.
The next flood we have, they're all gone. There's nothing protecting these now. They've been uncovered. The next flood can just scour them all away if it's the right flood.
But with cameras and with computer technology, they can preserve it in sort of an AI way.
You can't imagine coming across something like that.
No, you can't, can you? Can you imagine it? And can you imagine just standing sort of in their footsteps? Okay. So next question. Now this was one that while I was learning about dinosaurs and reading about them growing up, this was the big question, hot or cold-blooded. And there was loads of controversy. They were saying lizards, cold-blooded. But then if they were cold-blooded, they wouldn't be able to run around and they wouldn't be as widespread as they would have been, as they have shown to be. So hot or cold-blooded, loads and loads of information. And it's also very difficult to prove because of course you can't see the soft tissues. You can't see the parts of the dinosaur that would give you the ideas. You can't see any of the mechanisms that are needed to keep something hot, to keep something warm. So basically they've decided that it's probably hot or cold-blooded. Yes. Both. Something in between. Now a lot of them perhaps were hot-blooded or warm-blooded and some of them were cold-blooded. It depends, okay, on the species. And it links to my next question, as you'll see in a bit. But one of the ways they can tell is by using modern techniques. What was that thing you were talking about last time?
CT.
Using all that technology. They use CT scanning and X-rays, and they can actually look in much more detail. And they can actually see the structure of the bone, and they can work out sort of how the metabolism of each animal by looking at cross sections of the bone. Not every bone they can see that, but lots of them they can. They can also use this to tell age as well. And at first they thought big dinosaurs lived long time, slow, long time. What they've actually found, and I've got to refer to my notes as usual. Okay. Age, they reckon things like the T-Rex would reach full size about 16 to 22 years. And they probably lived to about 27 to 35 years. They reckon the Brontosaurus and the Diplodocus, or Diplodocus, whichever way, you can say it either way, they probably 70 years, the big ones they found looking at the bone structure. They reckon about 70 years. So perhaps not as long as people first thought, but not that bad. Okay, so hot and cold-blooded, it was quite a question that was on and off all the way through for quite a long time. But it links to this. This was sort of the big question that it led to. Are birds dinosaurs? Okay. Now this is Archaeopteryx, and the first one was found in 1861 in Germany. And, well, when it was first found, they thought, that's a fake. Looking at it carefully, clearly see feathers, but it's not a bird. It can't be a bird because there's tailbone, birds don't have tailbones, and also teeth. There's a jaw and teeth. So it's reptile, but it's got feathers. Okay, so the questions were starting to be asked, but at that stage, when it was first found, there was no link. Okay, they would not link. And Owen was really against, remember Richard Owen, he was definitely against Darwin, so he didn't want to make any link between dinosaurs and birds at all. Because remember, he didn't really think evolution was a thing. So Archaeopteryx. Thomas Huxley was another famous scientist at the time. He did, and he pursued it, but again, there weren't a lot of specimens found at the time. So, this sort of question went unanswered for quite a long time, until about 1994. So that's not that long ago. Well, I don't think it's that long ago. Do you? You don't think that's long ago? China. They found, but I suppose China was just sort of opening up to more people by then as well. So more information was coming out of the country. They found feathered dinosaurs. Okay. Again, lots of people said that's a fake, that's fungus or something. It might be just fungus growing there. But you can, when you look at them using microscopes and look at them in real detail, they're feathers. So that animal had feathers all around it. Very primitive, but feathers after all. And this one as well, feathers. This one's looking even more sort of bird-like as well, with wings. I'm not sure if they could fly, but anyway. But still saying fakes. And then they found feathers in amber as well. Now again, they're not sure whether that people would say, well, how do you know it's a dinosaur feather, or it might be just a primitive bird feather. Okay, fair enough. See if this one works right.
Sometimes, ordinary people make extraordinary discoveries.
There's a funny echo on that, isn't it?
A shepherd stumbled on the Dead Sea Scrolls. Teenagers found the cave paintings of Lascaux. And in 1996, with one swing of his pick, a Chinese farmer revolutionized our understanding of the dinosaurs.
Now imagine digging this up.
This would be just static.
Oh, that'd be just amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Just
His blade struck an ancient rock. Inside, the fossil of a peculiar turkey-like creature. It was clearly a dinosaur, but the imprints in the rock showed strange new features. This dinosaur was covered with what looked like feathers.
There was a buzz, there was like a rumor that the other dinosaurs have been discovered in northeast China.
The find sent shockwaves through the paleo world.
An astonishing discovery that will forever change what we thought we knew about dinosaurs.
Immediately upon seeing it, we knew that this was really a smoking gun, but totally unexpected from something I never would have believed we would find. The new discovery, named Sinosauropteryx, was about 2 feet tall, with a small head, teeth of a meat eater, long tail, and primitive filament-like feathers.
quite cute. Yeah.
These feathers can only be seen because of the rare conditions under which they were preserved. A volcanic eruption buried the creature in soft ash, locking in all its secrets before it could decompose. And it wasn't the only one.
They named the
The
area
find
sort of
kicked off
dinosaur
a dinosaur
Pompeii.
gold rush in the region. Over the next decade, hundreds of feathered dinos were found. And then paleontologists began piecing together theories about what the feathers meant. They mostly be a shift in our perceptions of dinos, what they looked like, how their bodies worked, and how they behaved.
never look at a robin again in the same way. So, colour. Just seen some and they've shown colour. Can they be sure about colour? Remember that one? Iguanodon. Can we assume it was that colour? Oh, yeah, we can. Because by using really good techniques that we've got nowadays, we look in at the feathers and we can actually find melanin, the little cells that contain melanin. Melanin is the pigment that gives us our skin colour, our hair colour, as well as all the colours in birds as well. So we can find them. And we know that these two, there's the U melanosomes contain the U melanin, which is grey or black, and then the pheomelanin, which is ginger. Okay? You see the ginger ones at the bottom, they're round little stones, ones at the top are more rod-like. So you look for those, and you can see that that's, you know, assuming that they work the same as in birds and mammals, and it's quite a safe bet. If it's through birds and mammals, it's quite a safe bet it's the same for them as well. So you can start using that as a way of making sure you can see the colour of these creatures. Okay, so we're about to get there. At first they did think it was bacteria, but as the technology got better, you can actually see that they are melanosomes. And actually, melanin is really tough protein, and it's actually been found in loads of different fossils now. So they were first found in 2008, these small organelles, in 125 million year old feathers, which is quite amazing. If you get the chance on Apple TV, I shouldn't say that because I don't know when I should be showing this, but on Apple TV, this series is absolutely amazing. You can see where the money goes. Okay, I'll link it to another programme that's just started. But wait, so you see this one. Hopefully the sound's okay. Pictures of the thing.
The bird dinosaurs are often very well preserved indeed, but that's not the case with the skin or the soft parts. So imagining what they looked like has been largely a matter of guesswork. But now some truly exceptional fossils have been discovered that have changed all that. One of the most startling discoveries has been the presence of feathers on a large number of species, including Velociraptor.
This is actual film. Looks it, doesn't it?
The idea that dinosaurs like Velociraptor were fully feathered is no longer at all controversial. We currently know of about 60 dinosaur species that are completely covered in feathers, just like modern birds.
Some of the most healthy fossilized feathers have been discovered in China. This is an image of a specimen that was found in 2015. It's called Zhenjualong.
Easy for you to
And
say.
you could probably guess from these huge claws on its feet that it was related to a velociraptor. But also, you can see amazingly
dinosaurs, we see that feathers are useful for so much more than just flying. For an animal like Velociraptor, feathers would have helped to control movement, particularly when the animal was leaping, climbing, or changing direction during a hunt.
Feathers can also function as a kind of suit of armour, providing protection from the blows of prey, as well as from collisions with the environment. And that would have allowed them to succeed even in the most difficult terrains.
As I say, if you get the chance, that is a great series. Okay, because it shows evidence, which is obviously what we're all about, isn't it, as scientists? We want to see the evidence. So this one, okay, where is it say? Right, Anchinoris huxleyi, this one is called. But you can see ginger feathers, black and white. And so looking for the melanin, the distribution of melanin, they can work it out. That actually means Huxley's near bird. And he was named after Huxley in his honour. So, okay. So that brings us to that big question at the beginning. Could we do a Jurassic Park? Now, if you remember in Jurassic Park, they used the blood from the insects they found in amber. Now, we have found loads of insects in amber, that is true. And they found mosquitoes and things that did feed on other living things. So they've got the blood. But of course, there's lots of questions. How do they know which blood it is? But in the book, in Michael Crichton's book, remember that was in 1990, he actually came up with the idea, could take that out, extract the DNA and put it in something like an amphibian from today, and then you'd end up with dinosaurs. Now, we have to remember that Michael Crichton was a medical doctor, so he actually used lots and lots of new science. And even a bit, you have to remember that in 1983, I don't know whether anyone's heard of the PCR, polymerized chain reaction genetics. They actually can get small chunks of DNA and make loads of it. So, you know, loads of people tried to find faults with his method, but, you know, they couldn't really. It's possible. So, easy, eh? Getting the dinosaurs from that. Have you seen Jurassic Park? Who hasn't seen Jurassic Park? Never seen Jurassic Park?
Oh, it's amazing.
Oh, they're all brilliant. If you like dinosaurs, see Jurassic Park. I won't show the clip because I think I'm talking a bit longer than... When I practiced this, it was only about 45 minutes.
It's fascinating, just keep going on.
Yeah, keep going.
Thank you. Do you want to see the clip of Jurassic Park? It's one of the first clips.
Off the coast of Australia, and I spent the last 5 years setting
It got better as well.
biological preserve. The park is we've made
This is before they found out that feathers
that
really.
capture the imagination of the entire planet. It's quite a story. There's no doubt our attractions will ride in up the heights. We're going to make a fortune with this place. We're going to open next year, that's it, boy.
It's not a spoiler, it only goes wrong because of somebody being greedy, wasn't
It's
it?
so colossal.
Yeah.
Park will open with the basic tour you're about to take.
Don't you see the danger? Children inherit. We're doing Benjamin Powers, the most awesome force the planet's ever seen. A kid that's found his dad.
These are aggressive living things that have no idea what century they're in. They'll defend themselves violently if necessary.
Dinosaurs, two species separated by 65 light years of evolution, suddenly thrown back into the mix together. They possibly have the slightest idea what to expect.
Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, the pirates don't eat the tourists. So, with Jurassic Park, they made a conscious decision for the later ones, for the new ones, not to put feathers on the dinosaurs as much, but to keep them, you know, sort of as they had done, sort of for continuity. But they did consider it, because obviously the evidence as they were making the films, dinosaur, you know, they were changing. Okay. So to make dinosaurs now, we'd need soft tissue. Alright, so you can't rely on the blood from the insects because it's a little bit difficult to actually extract. So we need soft tissue. Now in 1992, Raoul Cano and colleagues extracted DNA from fossil bees. So bees that were found in amber, they actually got the DNA from them. They managed to extract DNA from lots of other things, but not dinosaurs. Until 1994, when they said they retrieved DNA from dino bone. Yes, we've got soft DNA from dino bone. I remember reading about that at the time. However, a year later, it was found to be human contamination. And they reckon DNA is not tough and probably couldn't survive more than a few thousand years. So, no, perhaps not. Okay. So we're back to square one, thinking about how on earth we could get it. Well, in 2005, Mary Schwarzer found red blood cells in T-Rex bone. Now, we all know red blood cells don't really contain DNA, but it's soft tissue, it's a start, it might lead to more, and with better techniques, you never know what else is found. Oh, but they questioned it might be contaminated. But in 2018, they tried it again, and they reckon it probably she did actually extract the red blood cells. So it is possible, as the techniques get better, perhaps we'll be able to do it. So cloning, it brings us to cloning, doesn't it? Dolly the sheep, okay? And basically, with Dolly the sheep, she was created by taking the DNA from an adult sheep cell and putting it in an enucleated cell, which is an egg cell that's had the nucleus taken out. They put it in there and then put it into a similar species for it to come to term. So they put it into the placenta of another sheep, and we ended up with Dolly. So they cloned the sheep. Since then, they've cloned quite a few different things. So we've got soft tissue from things like the Tasmanian devil, passenger pigeon, these are all extinct. The auric. Can we bring these back? And in fact, again, as I was doing this talk, came upon the news that recently they've actually, a company, I missed what it was, couldn't find it then on Google, but the company has actually challenged in America, some labs in America, to bring back the dodo. And there's millions of pounds to do it, but obviously with the aim that, you know, what's next? Mammoths? They reckon they could, they've got soft tissue. Incidentally, I've seen a film where they bring the mammoths, they bring two mammoths back, they clone them and bring them back. And for some reason, the mammoths just go around killing everybody. So, I don't know, that was wasn't a very good film in that way. But, could we? Or rather, should we?
Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah. I mean, do these places still exist where they could actually live? But anyway, I doubt very much if there was the chance that people could bring back dinosaurs and things, I bet somebody would.
Yeah, they would.
There'd be a lot of money in it, wouldn't there? So what's next? What sort of other questions can we ask? I don't know whether those people who've seen Jurassic Park, they do look at how the velociraptors communicated, because again, they reckon they hunted in packs, they've got evidence, they found footprints with lots of other footprints, they found all sorts of things like that, so they know they must have hunted in packs, Did they communicate? How did they communicate? And they look at the skull, and again, using all this new technology, scanning, they can look at the shape and how they make the noises. Although for birds making noises, they have to have that, is it syrinx, special voice box. They have not found one of those in any dinosaur at the moment, but you never know. So noises. How they fed, well even that's not straightforward. That's looking at behaviour as well, how they fed, what were their teeth like, what did they really eat. And they have found creatures with their last meals fossilised in their stomachs as well. Other organic compounds like melanin. Now if they found melanin, what if they find other organic compounds? So as our techniques improve, that might help and point into that different directions. What about intelligence? Were they intelligent? And again, they can use the technology and make up the brain and compare it to brains of animals that we've got nowadays, and they can perhaps work out intelligence. So these are all things they're working on. And then of course behaviour. Again, I don't know, is this really good? So could the T-Rex swim?
The skull of Tyrannosaurus Rex showed that they were about hunter that never existed. These huge teeth are evidence enough of its efficiency as a hunter, and studies of the skull have also shown that it had an acute sense of smell. But what evidence is there that it ever went for a swim? The suspect of Tyrannosaurus Rex swimming with his young may seem surprising, but like all of the dinosaur behaviour in a prehistoric planet, this is backed up by some remarkable science. These mostly land-living predators were massive, 30 metres long and tipping the scales at around 10 tons.
So you could have smelt that carcass from across the water.
Perhaps an obvious candidate to be a swimmer.
T-Rex is part of a group of dinosaurs called the theropods. That's the theropod dinosaurs. And one of the key features of this group of dinosaurs is they had large, very muscular bird-like hind limbs, which were mostly built for walking and running.
But such legs would also be effective in swimming. A powerful kicking motion would have allowed theropods like T-Rex to cross large bodies of water. And in the fossil record, there is direct evidence for exactly this. Score-like marks known as swim traces, created when the claws of two-legged dinosaurs like T-Rex scraped sediment on the bottom of lakes, rivers, and the seabed as they swam.
See, that sort of fossil would have been overlooked, would have been looked at one point.
Further evidence that Tyrannosaurus Rex could swim has been found within its fossilized skeleton. Using a CT scanner, scientists found that many theropod bones have a hollow structure that would have helped their massive bodies to float.
On the basis of this evidence, we think that T-Rex would have been an excellent swimmer and that it would have used this behaviour to expand its feeding opportunities.
To dispel any doubt that such a large animal would take to the water, you need only look at our kingdom today, where some of the heaviest regularly go swimming. And that's true for some of T-Rex's modern relatives.
In the modern world, the animals that are most similar to T-Rex in general body shape are giant flightless birds like ostriches and emus. And perhaps surprisingly, these animals are really good swimmers. There are places where these birds make sea crossings, sometimes of several miles, so they can reach offshore islands and find new sources of food.
But 66 million years ago, venturing into coastal waters would not have been without risk, even for T-Rex.
Down there.
mosasaurs hunted beneath these waves. And young tyrannosaurs particularly would have been a valuable meal for these formidable aquatic hunters. T-Rex may have been strong swimmers, but they could only have been brief visitors to the prehistoric oceans. Although their name means tyrant lizard king, they could never have ruled the waves while the mosasaurs patrolled the coasts.
Okay. So there's back to that one that we saw earlier, the Sinosauropod. Do you know, I've been practicing this and I still can't get it right. Sinosauropteryx. Sinosauropteryx.
Okay.
That's it. Sinosauropteryx. And again, looking at the pattern of the melanin, they can actually come to the conclusion that's what it looks like. It almost looks furry rather than, sort of feathery. Downy, but it's downy with feathers. Okay, it's just anything more about that little one. Yeah, that's, as I say, that was a really good set of programmes, that one on there. I don't know whether any of you have started watching the one on Channel 5 on Sunday with Stephen Fry. Did anyone see that this week?
I'm saving it up. I want to watch the series.
It's really good. Well, I'm watching it, I'm thinking, oh no, I want to see how it builds up because it's got a lot of this sort of information, new information. But the animation is not as good as that one from Apple. But it's still good. And Stephen Fry stands there in front of a theropod. Anyway, and doesn't get eaten. Okay, so we can actually, this one was, go back. That was only about 4.5 feet tall, not very tall at all. And they actually found in its stomach fossilised remnants of its food, little lizards. So they know what it ate. So that's quite amazing. And that, again, is only possible with the new techniques and the new things that we've got, like CT scanning. And it was about 125 million years ago, that creature. This last one, okay, there's loads and loads. I thought I'd better stop at some point. I did this afternoon and then regretted it. Look at it, Boreo. So I should imagine that's something to do with tree life, isn't it? But in Boreo, Opteralta. Don't know whether you remember the one I showed you, it's the skin. Yeah. But they've managed to put it, and they reckon, again, looking at the melanin in the skin cells in the skin, they reckon it had this sort of the lighter colouring below and the darker colouring above, which is very common to a lot of creatures. Okay. So hopefully I've given you an idea and some of the new things. There are loads and loads of other dinosaurs that I haven't heard of that's in that book. It's so good. And of course you can find it all on the internet as well. So hopefully I'll finish at that point, otherwise.
I'll just offer some veterinary information. Birds and reptiles have nucleated red blood cells. So theoretically, you should be able to extract DNA
I didn't say that
from
in there.
them. No. It'd be interesting to know whether these avian-type dinosaurs breathe in the same way as our modern birds do. Mammals breathe to and fro. We breathe in and we breathe out.
Yeah.
So our air movements are backwards and forwards. Birds actually can shunt air in one direction, and therefore can extract a lot more oxygen from their lungs, as it were, because it sort of goes round in a circle through air sacs and all sorts of things.
Yeah, they've got different air sacs.
Yeah,
They do,
interesting to
even
know
the big ones.
whether dinosaurs have air sacs and things like that. And the other
Yeah.
adaptation birds have is they have hollow bones. That was
Yeah.
mentioned.
That was mentioned,
Now, do all the dinosaurs have hollow bones?
Yeah.
the difference being that birds are very light and therefore can afford to have hollow bones and they won't break, whereas I can't imagine a 50-ton creature having a hollow bone. It would be built like a scaffolding pole sort of thing.
They reckon the theropods,
Yeah.
which where birds came from, as it were, all the flesh-eating ones, they did have hollow bones.
Yeah.
The air sacs also, the lungs, the way birds breathe, they reckon things like Brontosaurus, they would have had to have breathed in that way as well, because of their big mass. And they do reckon they have got some evidence that there's sort of chambers, so they can tell that the lungs were just one, just the two lungs like in mammals. But they,
And wouldn't they have a crop
that was
to save the food and
they reckon, and that was on that Stephen Fry one this weekend. They actually showed that as an animation.
And Michael Benton has written a lot of books, hasn't he?
He has. He's also written a load of children's ones as well for children, and they are really good. They're really informative as well. So yes,
the Bible talks about Nephilim and Leviathan. We don't know what those were, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
You know, Nephilim, I think, are interpreted as giants, but whether they were giant people or giant animals, I don't know. What about dinosaur fish? Why aren't there dinosaur fish?
Because fish are fish. As a vet, fish are fish and dinosaurs are dinosaurs. Different ways, different tracks of the evolutionary tree.
Is there an equivalent of a dinosaur fish?
Yeah, that one that you've just seen eating one of the tyrannosaurs. Yes, possible.
Interesting,
Fascinating, Linda. Absolutely
Thank
Yeah,
fascinating.
brilliant.
Does anybody else get any other questions for Linda? I've kind of got one. Well, again, the asteroid theory has always bothered me because it's very convenient. And I always question, as a scientist, when there's a very convenient solution. So, I've wondered, and again, you can tell that I'm talking complete nonsense here, is what we are witnessing with what seems to be the kind of cut-off in the fossil record. Are we experiencing a combination of, and looking at the creatures as they are, with scales then going to feathers, are we experiencing some sort of evolutionary change that happens quite quickly, combined with some catastrophic events, such as a rapid change of climate? Which brings us into, now again, shoot you down in flames, which brings us into the cold versus warm-blooded creatures. Because obviously if they're warm-blooded and it went cold, they're far more susceptible to be wiped out. Am I on the right line here? So what I'm trying to say is there evidence that in the record that, and I know that they will point at asteroid strikes and so that's the one. Is that kind of a convenient theory like Einstein's constant, you know, along similar lines, or is it, right, we have the absolute, as near as damn it, evidence to say
They've got a huge amount of evidence now because they've traced where the asteroid fell, that it threw up tiny little particles, and they've actually traced them huge distances all around the world. There was a great programme on not that long ago about, I've forgotten what it was called now, but probably the reason, the day the dinosaurs died, and I can't remember what station it was on, but that really went into huge detail, and they've got loads of proof of all around the world of what happened when that asteroid hit. So they're really quite sure it was an asteroid. And to your answer, it wasn't a quick evolution, because don't forget, at the time the asteroid hit, there were mammals around, and when the asteroid hit, it wiped out probably about 3/4 of all the living things on the planet. So it just left just a few examples of different things that managed to survive. And the reason mammals managed to survive, because they were there, was because they could live underground. They were underground, really small, and then of course, because of the passage of time, they managed to evolve into all the niches that were vacant because of the left by the dinosaurs. So it was still a slow process, and there is loads and loads of evidence for this asteroid.
In terms of global cooling, though, any evidence we see in both mammals and in some reptiles is they can adapt to the cold quite readily in terms of hibernation for mammals, and then you see these toads that can be frozen solid and defrost themselves when the weather warms up and come back out of whatever state they're in. I don't think you can call it hibernation, but so there's evidence of both of being able to adapt there. But whether these big groups could or not, I haven't a clue.
Have the astronomers and the paleontologists got together? Because where did this asteroid come from?
Oh yeah, they know, and they know where it hit. They know the they trace the path. And they know where it hit. Sort of the big Mexican.
No, I meant where it came from in the outer cosmos.
Yes, and
conversely, all cultures seem to have a flood story in their backgrounds. And a flood would demolish a lot of these. Mammals and dinosaurs, reptiles, whatever.
But then
bury them in silt or whatever.
But then with a flood, why didn't the big dinosaurs that lived in the water survive?
Well, I don't think they did if it's that catastrophic, but we just can't imagine the sort of flood that's talked about, say, in the Bible or in some of the other religious cultures. It's not just Christianity that has that sort of background story. I think there's other religions do as well, which is
it feels like a conversation for about 10 down the pub.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm all up for that.
Well, you answered mine anyway.
Yes.
I think as good as we kind of can. You know?
There is a lot of evidence because they trace these tiny particles.
Just back to the feathers. Are the feathers later on in dinosaur evolution, or are they further back, or are they spread across time? Do we know?
Sort of, there is the Triassic and then Jurassic, so they were coming into the Jurassic time.
So
and then Cretaceous was the end bit.
So are the feathers kind of further down the evolution line, as in near its present time? Right, okay. So then that comes into the whole birds thing, doesn't it?
But then, where are the mammals coming from and all of this? Interestingly, hair and
Wow.
Well, it's the same sort. They reckon the same route that one of them sort of instead of developing into feathers, developed into follicles.
And this is why the society was formed. So, anybody get any other questions for Linda? Or any statements to make? Anybody got any more for any more?
Well, I think our next talk should be on time machines.
Absolutely.
Oh no, we can't then, because if we go back and we tread on a butterfly, you know what happens, sorry.
There are some great as well fossil examples at the University of Birmingham in the Lapworth Museum, if you get a chance to go. And that's free entry. You just go onto the Apple University campus. It's all directed. Small little museum.
Where, I'm sorry?
The Lapworth Museum at the University of Birmingham. It's actually on the campus. It's free of charge to go into. It's open every day. I think it's 7 days a week it's open. Do a search on the website and there's loads of good fossils in there. It's well worth a visit.
I've always been fascinated.
Yeah, it's well worth a visit. Linda, it's been entertaining and informative as always, and you put so much work into these talks.
Well, I enjoy it as well. So.
And thank you for doing it as well. So, can we show our appreciation for Linda?